Hello, everyone, and welcome to Truce Talks. We have a really special person with us today. We have Jakki Liberman from Bumpkins Fine Baby Products, and it's an amazing, amazing story. I have known Jakki for, I think, maybe 2-3 years now, and I've attended events there at Zulikins, and your story just blew me away. You know, woman to woman starting a business, which we both did, in our houses for X number of years, and you are there. You're such a success.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's great that you're doing these podcasts. I listened to a couple of them this morning when I was kind of getting warmed up, and I love what you're doing. And it kind of fits more into what I hope we continue to do, more of this networking and communicating and giving people other ideas of how they can get out there and figure things out themselves. Because as you know, where you start and where you end, it's a long and winding road, and sometimes just having a little bit of hope and a little bit of vision is just helpful at the strangest times.
Did you have 3 or 4 kids when you started your business?
I have 4, but I started my business right after the birth of my third. And all my kids are kind of crunched together in about 5.5 years. So I was definitely knee deep in kids and very hands-on into things that I wanted while I was having my kids, or things that I thought should be on the market. And so, the mother of all invention, necessity. So I think that as chaotic as it was, a lot of those products that were developed back in those days are still the mainstay products that are selling, day after day, year after year, still for our brand. So
you devised this spectacular fabric based on a need you had from one of your children's allergic reaction.
Yes.
Talk about that a bit.
Yeah. And, first of all, I do want to go back a little bit, because one of the things that's really hard to imagine is that, we were working before the internet. We were trying to find things before you had a Google search bar. And it just is really astounding, because I think it's really hard to do things now. But when we look back and talk about the earlier days, and even myself, I have a hard time believing that, how did that work? How did it work when you had to use your telephone for everything and you had to actually wait for mail? So it just is kind of astounding, but at the time, and I know things are really, really different now, but at the time, what really made a difference is we had material and fabric suppliers in the US. And so it's a hard thing to believe, but the US was an innovator, and we actually, you could go to a fabric factory, you could talk to the people that were weaving your fabric, you could go and see your fabrics being printed.
Because this is 1989, 1990,
right, exactly. And so, you still can go and see those things, but you're flying to Asia, and you're not really seeing and talking, you're not talking really to the same people who are mixing up the dyes the same way. So it's a little bit different. But essentially for me, what I was sort of struggling with at the time, I had just had my third child, and I had 2 in diapers, and the disposable diapers were just starting to get into putting chemicals in the diaper to make them absorb more or stay dry, all those kind of things. And it really was that stay dry waist shield, that sort of blue waist shield area, that kept giving my older daughter a rash. And by that time, and again, thinking back, it sounds radical, but Earth Day was just starting to be a thing, right. 1989, 1990. As young parents, we were all starting to be aware of what kind of world were we bringing our children into, and that disposable diaper dilemmas was starting to really hit the media. So there really wasn't that many places where you could escape that feeling that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And so here I was, with 2 kids in diapers. So the amount of these giant boxes, because they weren't these flat little tiny diapers then, they didn't have any chemicals. It was just paper pulp. And so one diaper was quite a fluffy thing. And it literally, a pack of diapers would fit into your cart, your whole physical shopping cart. You needed a second cart to go and get your groceries. So the idea of just hauling all these diapers in and throwing all these diapers away was really physically more of an issue of trash than anybody wanted to confront. And then coupled with the fact that all of a sudden I'm aware, well, it's not just that they're paper pulp and not biodegradable, it's also now what are they full of? And if they're giving my kids a reaction, is really this the best thing to be using? So I went on a little bit of a journey to find some cloth diapers, and I was kind of surprised to see that the cloth diaper industry at the time hadn't really progressed. It was pretty hard to probably fight the marketing and the overall appeal of a disposable diaper. And so the cloth diaper industry was kind of small and pretty fragmented, and there was—
And pretty expensive.
Yeah, it was pretty expensive. Although, again, you have to put the math together in terms of buying diapers every week as opposed to buying them up front. Feels a little more expensive up front, but do the math and realize you're going to be, spending that $20, $30 to get the toes, probably even more. And so diapering your kid could be $3,000 easily, whereas buying cloth diapers was $500. So still more or less to this day, that's kind of the equation, that you still have to have that money up front, or you incrementally buy those diapers. But regardless, it was that sort of realization that, these diapers aren't really what I want for my children. I want an alternative. Right. What is going to be out there? So once I started looking, I did see that there was, I think I started with a diaper service, and there was just a whole lot of this piece goes into that piece and you have to fold it this way, whatever. It really wasn't kind of what I was looking for. I still wanted something sort of simple that, my husband at the time could pitch in. Other people would diaper and not think I was prehistoric going, with this whole process. So I really just started sewing things together and trying things together. But the key component for us, there he is.
Here's the dog.
Let him out. 1 second. Okay. Okay.
We had a talk about that earlier. You got dogs. This is real life. This is your kitchen. That's what's going on. I closed the door. My dogs are on the side of it. But I've got 3 dogs. Sorry. I know the syndrome. All of a sudden you got huge noise.
Yes, exactly.
No problem.
One little guy with a big personality.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, that the issue we really had was waterproof fabric really had not yet been designed to be machine washed. So when you think about it, a raincoat, an umbrella, whatever, you don't really wash those in the washing machine, but you certainly wash a diaper. And so if you wanted to be able to put together what we had offered at the time, or what we came up with, was an all-in-one diaper. So it was absorbent in the inside and the outer shell was waterproof. You needed to make sure that that outer shell could stand heat, detergent, the wash, the dry, the whole bit. And so that was kind of the journey that got us to finding the fabric that is now still our signature waterproof fabric. And then, of course, I was a graphic designer at some point, felt I was a graphic designer. I wanted to put color, I wanted to put prints, I wanted to design the outside of these diapers. So I also wanted to make sure that if you washed it hundreds of times, it still was the same colors that you started with. So the search was on for the fabric that could do all of this. So I kind of took a few items that were on the market, went to work with some of the fabric mills, and we kind of played around, and we were able to create a very soft and lightweight fabric that could take color, keep color, and also could have a waterproof coating on it and still feel really almost satiny.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's a baby, and you want only the softness for the baby. So That fabric really was amazing. And the cloth diaper industry is still to this day very up and down when there's a lot going on that people care about the environment, or people are worried about chemicals, or even money. You'll see the growth in cloth diaper sales. But it also goes through times where people don't care as much. And so what I did find after a while is we only could get so far with our cloth diaper business. It was very niche.
But you developed that fabric, the super bib.
The fabric was the key. And so
Right.
and at the time, not only did we have fabric mills in the US, we were sewing in the US. We had fabric, we were doing our own cut and sew. And so at some low point, I needed to create more products. I really was thinking, diaper sales were slowing or sluggish. It was really it's a real complicated message. You certainly get people who are interested in cloth diapering. They can kind of get on board. But when you're trying to expand into the mainstream or trying to grow your business a little bit, it's still kind of very niche. So basically, we just looked at this fabric and said, what else can we make? And, my kids of all ages by this time were pretty messy kids. And so we started looking around, and I was like, I wonder if we could make bibs out of this. And the reason I also remember this is business had been really bad for a while. We designed these bibs. We had a trade show coming probably a few months away. I hadn't even designed the packaging for the bibs. And I brought everything that we had to the trade show, and I hung up like a clothesline, and I just hung them like really, really cute on there. And I couldn't get over the reaction, the market reaction. And people were going, oh, wow, look how this feels. Look how soft it is, how colorful. The other experience was, of course, you didn't have to explain how to use it. And
right.
After my first product, which was a whole lot of education, and even after you had the customer using it, a couple months later, they could call with questions or issues or whatever else. And so
what was so challenging about putting a diaper on?
You know what? You would be surprised, but sometimes fits, sometimes, detergent issues. Sometimes people don't really know, they over detergent. And so the diaper ends up causing rashes because there's still a lot of detergent in it. So whatever the issue is,
boy, you solved it.
Yeah, it just really became a real customer service product. And so, cool, don't mind supporting it, but we needed to grow our business. And I was expanding, and the bibs really ended up solving sort of a bigger problem that was more common. More people needed bibs than cloth diapers. It was a lot easier for consumers to understand what it was because it was just a better bib. They already were using a cloth bib. So this is another cloth bib. I wasn't taking them from using a disposable bib into using a cloth bib. I was taking them to using a one that they had to wash every single time and didn't fit as well, and certainly not as cute or as comfortable. But all of a sudden I'm bringing in something that was really soft. And at the time, the only real waterproof bibs were those hard plastic, I think they were called Pelican style, and they were really boardy. And so this sort of brought something new to that market, and they're so lightweight they can fold up and fit into your pocket.
And the fabric was beautifully designed.
Fabric
really
is fabulous,
cute.
and it can be machine washed. It can also just be wiped and it dries in a second. Wow. And it can be made new again, by every year we launch new prints. We pick up new, what color, what trends are on the market, and we design it so it's fun. And obviously in the last 10 years, you can see we got into also working collaboratively with Disney and DC Comics and Rio. That's the Hello Kitty brand, Nintendo. So not only do we do our own designs, but we also
talk about the start of those design outreaches, the time you got the phone call from Dr. Seuss.
Thank you for even remembering that.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Well, I'm here in Phoenix, in the Scottsdale area. And the one thing that I also want to mention is at the time that I was running Bumpkins, I was also running a second company. I was a young mom. I was divorced. I need money, and I had such a great time designing my own brand and my own products, but I had limitations in what I could do. So occasionally, I would meet up with other entrepreneurs and help them with their product lines and their launching. And again, it was more of a design and marketing type of assistant.
And you could do it from home, so you could still be with the kids.
Yeah. So I was, and the only reason I mention that is there is an orthodontist here in town called Dr. Seuss. And so I had been at a trade show. We had showed our wares. I got a phone call maybe a week or two after, and it was from Dr. Seuss. And I literally thought it was the local orthodontist needing a new logo or something like that. And when I look at the number and I'm like, no, this is California. And I'm talking to Susan Brandt, who still runs Dr. Seuss Enterprises. And they just basically said, we love your product line. We love the way you put everything together in the colors. And it really looks like something that we think would work with our branding. And we'd love to get into that baby market. And I was so excited about that because I love Seuss. Who doesn't love Dr. Seuss? And, I'm a 60s baby. I grew up on all that Sam I Am and Would You, Could You.
Cat
and
in the
so,
Hat.
So it was really exciting, and it was kind of a legitimation. It gave us the reason to look to grow. I had been sort of limited with I still had a few diaper products, and I still had a lot of feeding bib products, but growth was really hard to find because I didn't have really necessarily deep pockets. So I couldn't really expand into a lot of bigger categories. Even if I had ideas for them, I wasn't about to be able to get into too much tooling and everything else. So all of a sudden being able to say, oh, wow, this is something I can get my arms around. I see that we could make a lot of different product, a lot of new product, and it would be something that I could really see that would allow me to take that next step and deal with some bigger retailers or other kind of.
Well, and it's such a win-win for the companies who gave you access to their designs. They're building their brand at infancy,
Right.
That
absolutely.
Incredible.
Absolutely. And at that time, licensing in the baby market was not very big. So it was kind of a novel way to bring the best of the best of our products and the best stories that we really felt tied to our messaging. And I love to this day, I love Seuss, but also Seuss has got a lot of great stories within the stories, if you know what I mean. So
the Lorax,
it really did.
Yeah.
The Lorax, totally. And so for us, it was a very big launching, a sort of an experience that helped us launch into kind of a next level.
Boy.
And so that really, and it was also Susan and the whole Seuss team there. They're a small team. They were super easy to work with, and licensing is complicated. And so working with a team like they were, where they still were very family, like Audrey Geisel was still the one signing our contract, and they were very much about the integrity of the products. And they weren't looking for just the quickest, cheapest thing that we could put on the market. They wanted to make sure that it was something that they felt proud of as well as we did. So it really was a great fit. And we worked with them for, I would say, maybe 12, 15 years. It was really great. Yeah. And
so what was it like moving out of your house into, how huge a step was that for you?
It was a big step, and it was an exciting step. I had probably gotten to maybe 6 or 8 people working out of my garage. And again, was not common then. Back, like now, people work out of the home, especially now with coronavirus. Working out of your house is fairly common. We have the technology to do so and stay connected. But back then, it really was in a way for me, much easier to work at home because I needed the internet. Cell phones weren't such a thing. You know, people thought I was crazy how much I used my phone. But it was getting really crowded. My kids were getting older, and it was just, and also when you start having staff and customers and people coming into your home on a regular basis, it was just kind of, you know, an invasion that just never ended.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, I thought it was time to move, and I tell this story too. It's always kind of funny. It was a very exciting time, and I had to borrow some money to be able to make the move to the office and customize the office. And so there was, you know, again, it's always big steps when you're holding your breath and going, okay, is this really going to work? I now have to borrow a ton of money to do this, and I feel like everything's okay, but is everything okay? And I say that because we signed our lease for a new office space on September 1st, 2001. So you all know that September 11th was shortly after that, and the world changed. The world changed quite a bit, and it just threw us for a loop. So when I look at what I thought was a stable world, it really wasn't a stable world, and it was a terrifying, scary time. And the world changed, kind of reminiscent as to what we're experiencing now, perhaps. And our business changed, and you know, the events, the trade shows, the way that we connected with our market, all of a sudden there was no trade shows. No one was flying anywhere. No one was talking about baby things. It was just months of just waking up and going, is this reality? What's going on? And will business ever resume? And how could you ever even think about something as trite and as simple as designing a cute little print on a baby bib when your world just came down? So that was another kind of loop that we got through, that we endured and regrouped and tried to figure our way through, and it didn't go exactly as I expected. And I tended to operate a lot at the time with plan A, plan B, plan C, and that's still, you know, the way my mind is. The floor has been pulled out from under us enough times that, you know, I take that deep breath and go, okay, it's gonna be this way. We're gonna zigzag that way, and we're gonna have to figure out how to make it work.
And if you can't do that, if you can't pivot like that, I mean, that's the magic word today, is pivoting. What? It's going, just put a box of Kleenex on it. Shut up.
I know. Do you hear? Everything is booming and banging around. Isn't that crazy? You know, when I'm talking about these old days when we just could.
Isn't it? That is really something. And it's the reality of life. And it's never going to be perfect. And I'm always going to have junk behind me. And I love it.
Totally.
I love your comfort in your home, my comfort here, and talking about remember when. Remember when it wasn't like this. Remember when we had to go someplace to do this. We don't have to do that anymore.
I know. And, you know, even other things that stand out in my mind, just as far as being a working mom and having people struggling, because when I was working at home, I had to hide that because no one would take you seriously. And that credibility to have, and oh my God forbid they'd hear a baby crying in the background, you know, that was it. You would never be able to, you know, unless you had a man with a soup beside you, no one was going to take you seriously, and certainly not with a baby, you know, let alone four of them. So, you know, power that all of this stuff, that junk and those assumptions are out the door. So it's nice to know.
I just remember the first video like this we saw, where it was a man, and I think he was British, was talking at his desk very stern, and everything was very fine. And then his kid ran in. And then his wife, remembered his wife ran after and grabbed the kid and pulled him out. It's like, busted. And now everybody's like busted.
Yeah, totally,
And
totally.
I do like it. I must admit, I'm not going to like the return of, Seth Meyers and those guys to an audience. I don't care. I like looking around his house and seeing what's
I
going on.
know, I
It's fun.
know, I
The,
know.
the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, though, was your extraordinary family. You have 4 kids,
Yes, four
and
kids.
3 of them are working in the business with
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and 1 has gone on your environmental path.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. And
Is she still on that path?
she is, yeah, she works for the state of California in toxic cleanup right now. And yeah, she is definitely my inspiration on all things that I need to sort of, when I need to know where is the stance on this, what's really
Mhm,
going on.
mhm.
And she definitely goes deep and keeps us all on track, and there's nothing lightweight about anything that she's doing. So
Well,
she's very, very on top of that. And it really is a lot about the millennial generation, where you
I
really
agree.
see that things have to, I see a lot of different patterns with these new young professionals, but obviously speaking about the ones that I raised, it's really important to them that they're doing something that matters. They have to believe in their work, and it's not about a paycheck. And they have to feel connected. They have to feel that there's an importance. And we as companies are all starting to feel that way too. You can't just say, buy my product. People want to know what you stand for. What do you believe in? And how do you manage your business? How do you run your business? Do you walk the walk? Do you talk the talk? That kind of thing. And so I definitely feel that we've raised those kind of kids, and it's important for them to figure out their path based on the things that they believe in.
Well, your mission certainly reflects that. The Be Wise mission that you have, the 4 causes that you
Oh
support.
yes, or
Just
be
bam, bam,
kind.
bam. And
Right,
that's why I linked to
right.
you initially when Matthew Wittenstein, our
Yes,
connection. Um, your mission lines up with ours, and your
yes,
story lines up with ours in a
totally,
lot of ways. And it's
totally.
like, but I love it. I went, oh my gosh, this is a great mission. Oh, of course. And there's the environmental sustainability. Click. you
Yeah,
know it's
and
gotta be sustainable,
it,
and
it
your
really
business is.
does. And you draw in people to understanding, like a lot of people just need to figure out how can I take that information and apply it to my life?
Mm-hmm.
How can I
Mm-hmm.
make a difference? Because it does seem like I'm just a little peon in this world of people who don't care. And honestly, I think when you and I first talked about this, we talked a little bit about focusing on how COVID is changing the way we're doing business. And here again, pivot. But as you know, I have that, aside from our main brand Bumpkins, which we are international, we're sold all over the place. We're
8
always,
countries, girl, 8
gosh,
countries.
I've got to think we're way more than 8 countries already.
Okay, you must
So,
be.
so
I'm
we're
just blown
really,
away.
yeah, we're really lucky that way, that that we've been able to get international growth, and a lot of it is again the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Moms are a powerful community, and there's no borders. Moms speak to moms all around the world. And so most of our business when we were first growing, it was absolutely in the US. And that was a big enough job to really even communicate and try to reach all the retailers in the US. But as the world opened up, and predominantly because of the internet, we started getting interest from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be shipping products to other countries. I used to make my product in the US for probably 15 years. And was almost, it was kind of a sad thing for me when that ended. And that's a whole nother conversation about the reasons that went that way.
Oh, good. You
But
can come back and talk about that, because I really
yeah,
want to know about it.
and I wish we still could manufacture here at a competitive price that Americans would actually pay. But regardless, we were doing a lot over here, and then we started to make product over in Asia and whatever else. But our little circuit of selling, we used to do particular shows where we connect with our customers, and then we started going overseas. We started getting demands from accounts overseas, so we started to meet with them overseas and at different events. So now we probably travel to Europe. We do Europe once a year. We do Asia once a year in terms of physically going and meeting with our business partners there.
Let me ask you, do you expect that model to continue? Do you expect to have to physically go, or do you think that will have changed? What's your sense?
You know, I think we can still do a lot remotely, but I like face-to-face. I like going to see and touch. So I do feel that it is, you know, it's easy to maintain a relationship over Zoom and over email and all of that kind of stuff, but building a relationship from scratch, I think you can meet somebody this way, but at some point you want to physically spend time and actually get to know.
You have to touch it.
Yeah, you have to touch it. And you have to get to know the people that you're working with. And I think people can, I mean, I have been surprised how people are not always as, let's say, honest or as aware that they may not be what they say they are. So, you know, it is important, especially when you're dealing with factories and compliance issues, and you're putting your name on the line, you're putting money on the line. You kind of want to go and see. And there are third-party services that will go and inspect factories for you and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to it, I like doing business with people that I enjoy being with.
It's funny. I bet you have relationships that go back almost to your inception. We do.
Oh, yeah.
We've still got
totally.
the same printer from the first printing job we had, who's grown with us. And it's like, I just can call Greg. Okay, it's done.
Yeah. And it really is important too, because that's what it's all about, you know. And
that's what we're in it for. It's for the relationships in a way, you know?
Yeah. Totally. And we still have relationships that we have had for years. I even see, like, I have a customer in Switzerland that I've probably shipped to for like 23 years. Not a big account, but it is nice to see that kind of thing where you're like, you know, I know this business, I know this person, I've grown up with them, or our kids have grown up together, or whatever it is. And so, I'm not disposable about that. You know, it's not like I'm looking for things for the moment. You know, and time seems to go by so fast. So
no kidding. And you now have you have a big Bumpkins warehouse, you have the Bumpkins products, but you have the 2 stores now. Zulikins, you have 2 locations, and you've got this amazing event that I've participated in, the Mom's Night Out, which is just such a really, it's always fascinating for me to just watch the dynamic. What's going on? What are their questions? What are they doing? You've touched a market that is a really, really special thing, because I think women now really need to reach out to one another. What are you doing? How do we do it? And tap that face to face onto it. And you have provided a place for that, and that's just amazing.
Well, and that is one of the biggest things we're shifting right now. Like, first and foremost, Arizona is a really transient place in the sense that a lot of people have moved here. A lot of times they come to ASU and they stay, or just people get job opportunities out here. So I myself was Canadian and I moved down here. So one of the things I loved when I moved down here is how friendly everyone is, because everyone is from somewhere else. And so everybody is friendlier because they remember it wasn't that long ago where they came here and didn't know anybody. So that in itself makes Arizona special, but made my experience here special. But the other transition that I think is really, really important is becoming a mom. Becoming a mom changes everything. All of a sudden, even from the time you know you're pregnant, you're all of a sudden eating better. You're worried about your own health better, not because it's you, but because there's somebody in you. And so for the most part, most of us mothers want to make sure we're doing the best by our children. And so, you're looking at everything, like your cleaning products or anything that before you might not have cared so much, but all of a sudden it's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
It's about that really special little person that you're raising, and you also are the example for them. So for a lot of women, even if they were raised here, once they become pregnant, once they have a baby, they realize that those previous friendships or situations they were in are different, and they need and feel the need to connect to other moms or other people who are transitioning at the same time. There's probably no bigger transition for a woman than becoming a mom.
Right.
And so because of that, I feel that whether it's in person or virtually, that idea of connecting, you're all of a sudden, a lot of things are changing, but there's a lot more aloneness too. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning feeding. It could be the fact that you're just exhausted. There's just so many things going on at that period of time that you need friends and you need to feel you have a community. And so we had kind of an interesting opportunity, I guess maybe 4 years ago or whatever, when we opened Mini Social, our event space. We had the opportunity to take over this 3,000 square foot, beautifully situated, big space with gorgeous big windows, right in the main walking district of Scottsdale. And so I wasn't really sure what we wanted to do with it. I just kind of wanted the space, and I thought, we'll run some events here. We'll figure it out. One of my kids at the time thought, well, maybe we'll do some kind of woman's creative co-op. I mean, we had a whole bunch of ideas, but ultimately, because my main company, Bumpkins, is really about moms and developing and connecting with moms, I wanted to open up just your basic play cafe, drop in, come in and meet your friends here, screaming babies welcome, and don't worry about making noise, don't worry about anything. And we were able to set up a beautiful environment. You can look it up at minisocialaz.com. A beautiful, comfortable, it almost feels like a giant living room.
It does.
And so, moms can come in and sit down, and kids can run around, and it's not a jumpy, crazy climbing. It's about giving moms a comfortable place. And kids are really, kids behave wonderfully there. Yes, they chase each other a little bit, but in most cases, it's adorable to see these little toddlers just start playing in the little kitchen, parallel with each other, as if each of them know, they may never have met before, but one will sit down and take the plates from the other. And there's we have those little kid-size grocery checkouts, and it's adorable. You see these kids who are completely, 18 months, don't even know each other, and they all know how to.
That says something about the human race, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They have absolutely no problem,
Just
here's
mixing in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
you've done a terrific job. You really have.
And so
what do you see?
Well,
going forward from this COVID? Number one, how did it impact you? What happened? You obviously had to shut down part of your operation. Did everybody sequester at home? How did that work out? Are you guys all okay?
Well, yes, we're all okay. And I can only tell you how we are so far, because guess what? We're not out of this. We are not out of this.
It's just hitting here in Arizona.
Right. It's hitting bad. So going back from the very beginning of when the impact started, we make a lot of our product in China. So we gear up around Chinese New Year, which is usually sort of mid-January this year, mid-January to mid-February. And as you may or may not know, that most of China just shuts down for a month. It's lovely. They all go home and have their vacations. And so for most of us who make product in China, we try to time it so that you get a ton of product on your, from your factories before the shutdown. We're a pretty regular inventory on a pretty regular inventory cycle. So we always get goods shipped in every month. And so right before Chinese New Year's, we'll get enough goods for 2 months, a little bit more than 2 months, but we expect the factories to be shut a month. Then it takes them a while to rev back up and get production, because it takes a while for people to get back to the factories. And so normally we bulk up a little bit in January. We expect really nothing coming in February, and then we're back to getting product March, April, May, and so on. Well, this year, COVID hit China right at the end of January.
Yeah.
So a lot of them barely got to celebrate their New Year, which was obviously a big issue. It was kind of restricted, but then they went on total shutdown. So that meant our factories didn't go back to work. So for most people who are in the retail market, and I would say anything that's made in China, shoes, apparel, our goods, even toys and stuff like that, shipments weren't coming. Factories weren't running. They had to shut down for 2 months. So we were starting to get a little stressed out because we had no orders, we had no product coming in. And it was a pretty scary time going, okay, all of our accounts are ordering. We have, we were pretty down to nothing. But even at that time, I did not expect the disease to come across the ocean and be so devastating on this side of things. So I have to say that was, our first concern was, oh my God, I'm not going to have any product. I won't be able to ship any sales. And as you know, your inventory is everything. You have nothing to ship. You have nothing to bill. So as we were kind of depleting our inventory, our first thought was, how are we going to get product in? How soon are these factories going to get back up to running? But then the shutdowns started here. Mm-hmm. So we went from, and I just want to pause and say, we're just getting our product now that should have been arriving in February. So, and we're not the only ones. This is anybody who's getting
we're
any
in the
product
same
from
bucket.
Asia.
Yeah, we're not even from Asia. But what we found is we depend on alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, and that all went out for medical.
Yes.
And bottles, we can't get bottles. So we're a couple months behind you, but we're out to the walls. But we're here.
The supply chains are still not recovered.
They're not.
And I don't think people really understand how we are all connected, because it's one ingredient can stop everything.
Yep.
And especially if you have any safety testing, FDA testing, you can't just switch to another supplier. You just can't. And so, yes, there was definitely that scramble. Then there was obviously the scramble of shutting everything down. And I wish I had really kept a journal of what I thought was going to be, because for some reason, I was looking over at Asia. I had seen that they had shut down, and I'd seen they opened up again in about 2 months. So I was really going, okay, cool. We're a little low on product. We can get ahead on design. It took us a while to get everybody remote. My retail operation obviously had to shut down. Our event, play cafe, party place had to shut down completely. Our offices, I had everybody cleared out, and that took a while to get everybody, just the network, powered up enough that everybody could be remotely tapping into it and securely and remotely doing it. So we had a couple weeks of, I would say, non-productivity while we were getting things set up, but then we got everybody remote. But I kind of thought, okay, well, this will be fine. We'll work remote for a while and we'll go on back. But as it dragged on and dragged on, and you realize that there is that it's not back to normal. It's going to be a new normal going forward.
Yeah. What I'm asking you is, what for you, what does it look like to you, the new normal? What do you think? Can you even put a thought on it? What do you think it's going to be?
I feel like there are, especially here in Arizona, we're as a whole. I don't think people from Arizona like to be told what to do.
No kidding. No kidding. What was your first clue? Going into stores where nobody's wearing their mask.
Nobody's wearing a mask.
And what are you kidding? Your governor's not wearing a mask. Let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
But that's what I'm wondering. Because we're just wondering what the new normal is going to be, because everybody seems to be changing their operation, their rules a little bit in light of this incredible transition period, this pandemic period. So
I think that we're going to start seeing people who feel less vulnerable being bolder, and those who feel vulnerable being less bold. So I think we're going to always have to be prepared for remote school, remote work, remote everything,
Yeah, I think
because,
so too.
you know, the minute someone has a sniffle, they're not going anywhere, but that doesn't mean that they're sick enough to do nothing. So whether it's kids in school or people that you work with, we have to be prepared to allow for remote work. And being forced to turn everything remote really just gave us a bit of a head start. We've got to perfect it all, but
I agree.
I think we're going to have this dual strategy going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's one of the biggest changes I'm doing over at Mini Social. Right now, we are upgrading absolutely everything in that place. The floors are getting upgraded. The faucets, you know, what do you call it? Touchless faucets, touchless soap. We're putting the air filters all over the place. We've got these giant blue light, UV light things that'll come in and zap an area, and I mean, they are huge, that can really sanitize in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
We're putting in washing machine, dryer. We're putting in an industrial dishwasher, and that's for toys. That's not for dishes. It's just to take the community toys and all the Legos and just keep cycling through. And
so you're thinking ahead, you're looking ahead, you're still there, you're not going anywhere, your people are all there, and that's terrific.
And you know, that's the main thing. And the other thing that we're doing is we are building a more video stations to do more streaming of content, things like this. But looking at that space to provide more of a video studio for us, if you will. I've got a kitchen in there that we're converting over into having a demo kitchen, so we can have a lot of our content being done. You want to come and do this little class, or do you want to just stream it?
Good deal.
Yeah, so I'm looking at how can we still connect to the community when knowing that half of them can't make it. And I have to say that we've still been running classes and mom events and things like that, and the attendance has been great, and people are still needing and wanting to connect, probably more now than ever before. Life has become very, very boring. And so,
well, I definitely see you still really energized by your business and energized by the transition. Okay, we have to shift thinking. We have to go this way. And that's really important for people to say. You've been doing Bumpkin for over 30 years, and you are still on fire. And
still got things to do every day. You know, where I go like, you know, problem solving, moving on, figuring out how do we fix this? How do we move on? How do we make it better? And
one final question for you. One final question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, living or dead, who do you want to have dinner with? Who would you like to really talk to?
The first name obviously would come up would be Obama. He's kind of cool.
He is kind of cool.
I think, you know, people who've changed the world, and I don't mean by one thing they did. I mean, the fact is, it's an everyday thing. It's getting up there every day. And so that's why, as I said, is it Obama? Is it somebody in that where it's not like somebody who had their moment. It's a lifetime of consistency and walking that walk.
Yeah.
So
community organizer. That's where it started for him, was with the community. So Oh, Jakki, thank you so much for taking a part of your morning to visit with us under these crazy circumstances. But this is the way it's going to be going forward, and we both know it.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you haven't been, you local listeners, if you haven't been to Zulikin, either location, Scottsdale or downtown, don't miss it. The Bumpkins products are magical. They're all over the world. Bumpkins, BUMKINS.com. Check it out. It's beautiful. Come back and talk to us again. Will you, Jakki? I want to see how you come out of this. I really do.
Thanks so much, Diane. And hopefully we can continue on. We've got some exciting things going on and we can't wait to bring your brand along with it. So yeah,
I
let's
expect
do
we'll
some
just
great
be talking.
things.
We'll be talking in general. There are
Yeah.
a lot of similarities, and I really love that. I really
Yeah,
love that.
that's
Thanks, Jackie.
great. Thank you for the invite and the opportunity.
Okay.
Okay, talk soon.
All right. And
Thanks.
everyone, we're going to be talking to more fascinating people, many of them local, many of them not. So stay with us. Truce Talks. We're a very different podcast. Join us. Thanks. Bye. Wash your hands.